My dad chose my brother over me. Even I ran the farm solo for over 10 years. So I left, and now the farm is falling apart without me. My dad said I'd be fine on my own, so he gave the farm to my brother with 3 kids, who hasn't visited in 2 years, and plans to cash out. Here's how my story started. After my mother died, I returned to our little family farm at the age of 34, to assist my father in keeping it operational. My younger brother, 31, lives 2 states away with his wife and 3 children. He works in the city, and only visits once or twice a year, so he has had no involvement in the farm. Over the years, I've primarily been in charge of the farm's operations. It's a little business with barely any profit. Most years we barely break even, which is enough to pay property taxes and keep the place running for my father's sake. My father continues to assist whenever possible. It provides him a purpose after his mother's death. But the majority of the actual labor and management rests on me. I am in charge of everything, from caring for the animals and crops to maintaining the equipment and managing all of the bookkeeping and paperwork. And I do all of this on top of working a part-time job in town to supplement my income, because the farm does not pay well. Essentially, I've been working on the farm unpaid, living there, and helping out whenever someone needed it. Here is the problem. My father recently said that he is rewriting his will, and intends to give the land to my brother. His explanation is that my brother has a family to think about because of his children, whereas I am better capable of caring for myself. In other words, because I'm single with no children and my brother is married with children, Dad believes he deserves the inheritance more than I do. I didn't want to yell at my father, but I did question if he was serious. I replied something like, "What about all the work I've done here?" And he became defensive, saying it's not about keeping score, and that in a family, you assist each other out. He minimized my concerns, hinting that I shouldn't worry about who gets what, and that he believes I'll be fine on my own because I'm capable. That truly hurt. I have devoted over a decade of my life to this farm. I put my personal life on hold and moved here to help Dad and maintain our family's land. In contrast, my brother has never mowed a field or helped with harvesting. He's not a nasty person. His life took him somewhere else. But now Dad is stating that the farm, which only exists because I've been working on it, will be given to my brother, who had no involvement in it, simply because he has children, and I don't. It feels like a massive slap to the face. I'm not concerned about money in the sense that this isn't a profitable property. It is primarily about the principle. If my brother gets the farm, I believe he would just sell it for cash because he has neither passion or skill to run it. That would mean that everything I've done to keep this farm alive, improve it, and preserve it has been in vain. In addition, I would lose both my home and my job at the same time, while my brother would benefit from a sale. I haven't had a serious sit-down confrontation with Dad since that initial shocking talk. He seemed to dismiss the subject by saying, "Family isn't about keeping score," making me feel selfish for even bringing it up. I feel bad because I do not want to be greedy or ungrateful. I know I returned to aid out of love, not with the expectation of a reward, but at the same time, I feel extremely underappreciated and taken for granted. It's as if he doesn't value my effort simply because I'm the daughter, and in his opinion, girls only help out. I'm so conflicted and hurt. I'm not sure how to approach my father without getting into a confrontation, and I haven't told my brother about it. So, Reddit, am I stupid to be furious that my father intends to give the family farm to my brother despite the fact that I've been working on it for years? Is my frustration justified, or am I simply entitled? I really need some perspective on this scenario. Comment 1. NTA. Your father is clearly taking advantage of you. He's practically treating you as free labor while rewarding your brother, who accomplished nothing. That's just unfair. You have every right to be offended, and you should seriously consider not working for free. Your father is displaying obvious favoritism or perhaps an outmoded belief that the son should inherit the farm. You're not mistaken here. OP's response. It definitely feels like I'm being taken for granted. Comment 2. I am very sorry you are going through this. Have you truly sat down with your father and discussed how this makes you feel? Maybe he doesn't appreciate how much this is affecting you, or how much effort you've put in since you haven't fully sold your side of the story. It could help to carefully convey to him what you've told us here. Also, does your brother actually want the farm? If he is aware of the circumstance, he may be willing to support you. In any case, clear communication is essential. OP responded, "You're correct. I have not had a genuine heart-to-heart talk with him yet. I sort of froze up when he started the change. I think I need to have a proper conversation with him about it. As difficult as it may be, I'm not sure if my brother knows or what he would think. He has never expressed interest in the farm. But yeah, I'll try to discuss it gently with Dad and see if it helps." Comment 3. YTA. Boohoo. You decided to go back and play farming. That does not imply you can complain about not being given the land. It is your dad's property, not your own. He can leave it to anybody he wishes, and it stands to reason that he would give it to the child who has a family to maintain. You sound entitled and demand a reward for what you were meant to do. If you do not like it, you are free to leave. But don't try to shame your poor father simply because you regret squandering your own time. OP responded, I don't expect a payment for assisting my family. I did it because I cared, yet it is difficult not to feel upset in this situation. I understand that it is ultimately his decision, but I do not believe it is wrong to feel disrespected. I am not trying to guilt him. I simply want him to realize where I'm coming from, and if nothing changes, I may have to leave. Even though that's terrible. Update 1. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who commented on my initial post. I followed the advice to sit down with my father and discuss things through. Unfortunately, our conversation did not go as smoothly as I had intended. I attempted to convey to my father how I felt, how I had committed years of my life to keeping the farm functioning, and how it ached to hear he was going to give it to my brother, who had never been involved. He appeared uncomfortable and defensive. He basically told me that I shouldn't think of family inheritance as recompense for effort, and that I was wrong to make it all about keeping score. His statements were something along the lines of, this isn't about tallying up who did more. In a family you do things for each other because you care, not for some reward. He reiterated that my brother had a family to support and that I'm more independent. So in his opinion, this is about looking out for the family members who require the greatest assistance. I mentioned that it felt unjust, and he answered, life isn't always fair, and inheritance isn't a paycheck. That pretty much ended the conversation because I didn't know how to react without getting into a dispute. I also questioned if my brother was aware of any of this. Dad told me that he had not addressed the change to my brother at all. He responded as if it was no big thing, saying it was just estate planning and I shouldn't be too concerned. That surprised me because it seemed like such a big issue. The entire conversation left me feeling dejected. My father clearly sees all of the work I do on the farm as something that someone would naturally do for her family. He does not consider it as an effort that entitles me to ownership or stake. It's simply expected of me. Realizing that was quite painful. So, at this time, nothing has actually changed. Dad is keeping to his plan, and I'm still here doing the daily farming chores, but I'm becoming bitter. I haven't approached my brother about it yet because he is still in the dark and lives far away. I honestly don't know where to go from here. This scenario just feels dreadful and unfair, and talking to Dad didn't help. I suppose I will have to find out the next step. Maybe it involves my brother, but I am at a loss right now. Comment 1. This is really wrong. To be honest, it sounds like your father has an old school or misogynistic mindset. For example, the daughter is expected to work out of duty, while the son, who accomplished nothing, receives the award since he is the male in the household. You are not even and not the asshole. You have every right to feel hurt. The OP responded. It certainly feels like a way. Unfortunately, I'm beginning to suspect it's a lot of that old-fashioned thinking. Things hurt to think that's how he sees things, but I appreciate you confirming that it isn't okay. Comment 2. If your father refuses to see reason, you may need to start looking after yourself. It is not fair to you to continue working yourself to the bone for nothing if he is simply going to give everything to your brother. Perhaps start by reducing your agricultural tasks or getting a paid employment elsewhere to guarantee your future. It's unfortunate, but your father is taking you for granted, and you deserve better. The OP responded. To be honest, I have been thinking the same thing. I adore the farm, but I can't devote my entire life to something that will never be mine in the end. The thought of leaving makes me feel guilty, but you are correct that I must consider my own future, if he does not. Comment 3. You should certainly include your brother in this chat. There's a chance he doesn't want the farm. If he's a sensible guy, he might agree with you, or at least admit to your father that he has no interest in it. At the absolute least, speaking with him could reveal whether he intends to keep or sell it if it comes to him. Knowing this may provide you with additional leverage or knowledge the next time you speak with your father. OP responded. That is an excellent point. I haven't spoken with my brother yet, mainly because it's difficult and I'm not sure how to bring it up. But I'd like to know what he thinks and what he'd do if Dad actually follows through. I'll try to have that chat with him soon, especially if I can't reach Dad in any other way. Update 2. Many readers pushed me to speak with my brother, so I did. My brother and his family came to see Dad and me briefly. A brief weekend getaway. I took the chance to speak with him about what had happened. I basically told him straight out that Dad was going to leave the farm to him in his will. He seemed astonished. He appeared to have learned about it for the first time here. I asked him hypothetical questions about what he would do if he inherited the property. Would he like to keep it or handle it somehow? He was quite honest. He responded something like, I can't exactly move out here and start farming. My life is in the city. The kids have school, and I have my job. In other words, he recognized he wouldn't be able to use the land personally. Then he shrugged and said he'd probably sell it if the opportunity presented itself. I'm not going to lie. Hearing him say that out loud irritated me, even though I expected it. I informed him that I had spent over a decade working on the farm and didn't want it sold to some developer or stranger. I was hoping he hadn't thought about it from my perspective and would reconsider. He seemed uneasy and muttered something like, "Yeah, I get that. I don't know. It's complicated. I'd have to think about it." That was about the end of our conversation. He did not explicitly deny the bequest or advise that I receive any share. He primarily appeared uncomfortable. I suppose he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but he plainly sees the farm as a burden or an asset to be sold rather than something to retain in the family. After that chat, I felt quite down. It verified my greatest fears. If Dad goes through with this, the farm will be sold as soon as it passes to my brother. I'm trying not to resent my brother. It's not his fault Dad set this up, and he's simply being practical about his own predicament. But it still seemed like a blow since it meant that all of my efforts here would be in vain in the end. So that is where things stand. Dad has yet to expressly tell my brother, "Hey, I'm leaving you the farm." So my brother is waiting for that news from Dad. I imagine I haven't told Dad about my conversation with my brother yet either. We just had the visit, they departed, and now I'm processing everything. I am not sure how or when to bring this up with Dad. By the way, I talked to brother, and he said he'd sell the farm. I expect the conversation to be tense, but at least I now have a better picture. If nothing changes, the farm's future is effectively nothing. It's a very disappointing conclusion, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Comment 1. You now have concrete evidence that your brother would sell the farm. I think you should notify your father right away. If your father's entire argument was based on family and preservation, he must understand that his plan means the farm will not be passed down to future generations. If he still insists on giving it to your brother while knowing it will be sold, he is incredibly stubborn and short-sighted. Lay everything out for him. Giving the farm to your brother means it's gone. Perhaps this will wake him up. OP response. I agree that he should hear this quickly. I am working up the guts to have the conversation. It won't be simple to inform him that his magnificent idea would entirely backfire. But you're right, he has to face that truth. I sincerely hope that information causes him to reconsider, because it is exactly what I was scared of. Comment 2. I have to say that I was disappointed by your brother's reply. I understand that his life is elsewhere, but he didn't even consider trying to maintain the farm or acknowledging your years of work. He simply answered, "Yeah, I'll sell it," without skipping a beat. A stand-up guy might have told your father, "Give it to sis. She's the one who earned it." At the very least, he could have offered a split or plan that included you. It seems somewhat greedy that he would simply grab the money. I understand your father is the main issue here, but I'd be hurt by my brother as well. OP response. I was a little disappointed too. I don't think he intends to injure me. In his opinion, he is simply being reasonable about what he would do. But certainly, a small part of me hoped he'd say something like, "You've been doing all the work. Maybe it should go to you," or that he'd at least reassure me he wouldn't screw me over. He actually didn't. I'm not trying to make him look bad, but it bothered me that he didn't seem to appreciate what I'd done. Update 3. It's been a few months now, and I've been discreetly planning for the possibility of having to construct a life outside of the farm. After reading the suggestions here and seeing how things were going, I updated my resume and started exploring other options in agriculture. I haven't gone yet, but I've become less interested in long-term planning for the farm. I suppose my father has noticed. My father recently confronted me. He inquired why I appeared distracted and uninterested in the upcoming season's plans. I decided to be honest. I told him that I was considering my choices outside of the farm because it had become evident to me that I didn't have a long-term future here. I tried to express it as nicely as possible, but I did not conceal the fact. I can't keep putting all of my time and effort into a farm that I won't inherit or own. Well, that blew up. My father became really agitated and emotional. He basically blamed me for abandoning him. He exclaimed, "So, you're just going to leave me here all alone in my old age? After everything, you're walking away?" He went on to say how much he thought I cared about our family and the property, and how unhappy my mother would be if she found out I was willing to just up and leave. He phrased it as if I had betrayed the family. I did my best to remain cool. I told him that I had been here for 8 years because I loved the family, but I also needed to think about my own life. I told him directly that it's difficult to justify staying when I know I'll end up with nothing, and that if my brother inherits the property, he'll probably sell it anyway. I did explain that my brother had told me quite clearly that he was going to sell. Dad only shook his head and mumbled something like, "You don't know that for sure. He might realize its value to the family when the time comes." It was as if he was in denial, or didn't want to hear it. The talk was terrible. We were both angry and hurt at the end of it. My father thinks I'm being selfish and disloyal. From my perspective, he is the one who put me in an impossible situation. I told him, "I'm not trying to hurt you, Dad, but I have to have a life that's mine. I can't work myself into the ground here and then have it all taken away." He just said, "I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You chose to come back. If you want to go, go." But he said it in a bitter way. So, yeah, we're kind of at a standstill. He knows I'm serious about leaving, and he's upset. I feel guilty and sad too. I'm sorry things have reached this point. I wish he could see my perspective without feeling assaulted or betrayed. It's as if there is no positive outcome here. If I stay, I am basically screwing myself over. He believes I'm taking advantage of him if I leave. This is a dreadful situation. At the present, we're only discussing the basics of running the farm on a daily basis. I'm still doing my tasks, while he's doing his. But there's a lot of tension. I honestly don't know what will happen. I've sent out a couple of job applications, so we'll see what happens. I haven't formally given up on him, but he knows I'm close, and it's devastating for both of us in different ways. Comment. This seems like a no-win situation. In some ways, I sympathize with your father. He's elderly, probably afraid of being alone and watching the farm die. But he took it on himself by not treating you fairly. You have been wonderfully patient and generous. Choosing to live your own life is not selfish. It is necessary. You offered him multiple chances to do the right thing. If you have a good work chance, you should seize it without hesitation. Hopefully your father will ultimately realize that his actions have consequences. In the meantime, take care of yourself. OP answered, "I appreciate it. It's a tragic situation all around. I feel awful for my father, and I know he is worried about the farm collapsing or being alone. But you are correct. I gave him every opportunity to make things right, but he refused. I need to watch out for myself now. If an outside job becomes available, I will most likely accept it, no matter how difficult it will be to go. I hope he understands someday, but I can't count on it." Update 4. A lot has happened during the last few months. The big news is that I landed a new job. I was given a position overseeing operations at another farm about 3 hours away. It's a larger commercial farm, and they were impressed by my experience managing my family farm. The compensation and perks are pretty good, which is something I'm not used to. After working for free for so long, I decided to take the job. I gave my dad a full 2 months' notice that I was leaving. I wanted to give him as much time as possible to prepare, as my departure is obviously a significant change. When I told him I was going, he freaked out. This was a distinct reaction from the previous rage. This time he was panicking. He begged me to stay and promised we could work anything out. He even agreed to modify his will again. This time he offered to split the property 50-50 with my brother if I didn't leave. I did not agree for a number of reasons. I calmly conveyed to him that sharing farm ownership is not a viable solution. If I owned half and my brother owned half, he could still force a sale of the entire land or sell his piece to someone else, such as a developer, which would essentially damage the farm. I asked my father to think about how that scenario would play out, and I believe that made him pause. For the first time, I watched him realize that his compromise approach would not secure the farm. I believe that was the point at which he realized I was correct about the risk. He went quiet, and then stated he needed to speak with my brother. According to what I gathered and what he later told me, that phone chat with my brother was a genuine eye-opener for my father. He directly asked my brother what his plans would be if he inherited even a portion of the land. Apparently my brother informed him, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to sell it." I assumed he was aware of this. My brother wasn't nasty, but he was honest that he doesn't have the time or desire to manage a farm, and that the money from selling it would be more beneficial to his family. I'm not sure if my father truly grasped it until he heard it directly from my brother just now. Their conversation became quite heated, at least on my father's side. I wasn't on the call, but my father seemed noticeably disturbed afterwards. I overheard him yelling about how he couldn't believe we'd just give up our family's land for cash. I believe he was frustrated with the situation, and possibly at himself, because what did he expect? He now realizes that his approach would have resulted in exactly the opposite conclusion he desired. At this moment, my father is scrambling. He knows I'll be departing in a few weeks. My notice time is approaching its end. He began trying to find staff to replace all of the work I perform. Unsurprisingly, it is not easy. For starters, competent farm labor or a manager costs significantly more than he ever had to pay me, because I worked for free, except housing and board. He honestly told me the other day, in a disappointed tone, "I had no idea it would be this expensive to find someone to do what you do." I feel sorry for him. I really do. He's an elderly man who is concerned about losing both his child and me moving out, as well as the viability of the farm. My contributions were not limited to what the family does, they held genuine economic worth, and now he sees it plainly, because he must pay someone else. The farm's finances are already strained thin, and recruiting workers or a farm manager will eat into our slim profit margins. I'm not sure how long he will be able to keep things going without me. I'm now packing my belongings and planning to move out in a few weeks to start my new career. My father and I are on slightly better terms now than we were after the major fight in Update 3. I believe he is too fatigued and worried to continue battling with me, and he has accepted that I will leave. He hasn't explicitly stated it, but I believe he understands why this is happening and accepts responsibility for it. We've come to a tragic understanding. To answer the question that everyone has been asking since the beginning. No, I do not believe I am the bad guy in this case. I don't think my father or brother intended to hurt me, but their actions did. And now we're all living with the aftermath. It's a bad, convoluted situation with no clear winners. I'll go on and do what's best for me. If the farm becomes too much for my father to manage, he may have to consider selling it in the future. That aspect is now up to him. I'm sad that this is how things ended. Thank you to everyone who followed along and provided advice. This has been a difficult journey, but I am confident that brighter days are coming, at least for me.